Hey guys, Matt Dog here with another video. We've reached Master 1. It's been a little while since I've been at Master 1. I never really had enough time to grind all the way up. Like I kept getting stopped at Master 2, uh, like in the last day of the season. But this format, and this deck that I've built, that uses Ghost Fusion that pretty much like no one else is really using in the way that I'm using, I don't think, at least that I'm seeing absolutely crushes a lot of the decks that are really popular this format. So first, let's kind of show off what we're generally doing. Upstart Goblin and the Millenium Engine are our main ways to make our life points lower than our opponents, which is how you make Ghost Fusion online. Ghost Fusion is this awesome zombie spell card that basically summons Beatrice while also being a Foolish Burial. Uh, in this case, though, we're able to use the Millenium Engine, which pretty much always allows you to discard a monster. In this case, we had to get rid of Max C, but you can imagine if it was like something that we wanted in the grave, then we would have used Wenju Tempu to send something we want to the grave. But instead, we do this, Zombie Vampire, Mill. We actually steal their Fiendsmith Engraver. So before we even go into any of our main combo lines with Ghost Fusion, we're just going to make Beatrice anyways. So thanks for the level 6 monster, idiot. Okay. I learn as these duels go on to prioritize Beatrice sending rollback plus Ghost Beats Girl to just turn my opponent's turn off. This is a game where I'm only using Beatrice to like make my combos extend and continue. There, obviously, I used Ghost Fusion to get Changshi, which is the Foolish Burial that I mentioned, while also summoning 2 level 6 bodies and to draw 1. There's also a really cool combo you can do where if instead of making Garura, you make a card, the Duke of Demise. Duke of Demise is a graveyard effect that lets you add a level 5 or higher zombie from your deck to your hand. So something that I could have done here if I didn't make Garura is I could have made Duke of Demise. I do this combo where you get it back in the graveyard somehow. In this case, I make Vampire Sucker to just get an extra draw at some point. Um, but I could have sent Duke of Demise. Duke of Demise adds Imseti from the graveyard to our hand, and obviously we could have used Beatrice to send Imseti to the grave if we didn't have them there already. And then Imseti discards a card, and now we also have our Horus engine online. So it's a cool combo you can keep an eye out for. We use grass just cause we've been like I knew they had some kind of interruption, so I've been trying to bait it out. But when you don't bait out their interruption long enough, eventually you just go full combo. So in this case, they just make it so we don't get a draw 1. Oh well. We're able to pop off using Mizuki, this not once per turn zombie monster where you can banish special summon a monster. In this case, we summon a level 6, make Unizombie a level 4, and Baronne de Flare. Thank you very much. Yeah, kind of all the ladies now. Baronne, Beatrice, the Vampire Sucker. Vampire Sucker is one of those cards where I keep thinking I want to cut it in order to make room for other cards in my deck. See, there I tried to send Doom King, but they had a call by. I'm not going to waste Baronne negating a week old call by. I should have sent Rollback so that I could copy Ghost Meets Girl and turn their turn off, but whatever. Yeah, in this case, they just summon a unicorn and bash over Baronne. So, uh, you know, one mistake or 2 mistakes here or there, and all of a sudden things are looking not so good. However, because they're under the effects of Zombieworld, they can't special summon out Fiendsmith Engraver, which again, here I sort of panic and use Medora to shuffle all of their cards back from the grave into the deck. I didn't need to do that. They just get an extra effect off of Kashtira Unicorn to banish an SP Little Knight, Ash Blossom, whatever, negate a search, but they weren't able to special summon Engraver from the grave, and now they make the link too, and guess what? Moon of the Closed Prison, the only reason anyone runs this is because it's a light fiend, but now under Zombieworld it's a light zombie, so their entire Fiendsmith engine is completely turned off, and when every deck in the format is running the Fiendsmith engine, that's a super powerful floodgate that actually enables our plays. My turn. Mizuki. Special summon Baronne de Fleur. Get a draw 1. Unicorn can banish a card from the extra deck, but we do not care at all. Goodbye. Yeah, once the zombie pile starts flowing, it just never stops. This next duel is going to be against Tearlements, and this is one of those situations where it's like, you thought you were born in the darkness, but I was raised in it, molded by it. Uh, like, zombies are a deck that makes a ton of sense to be constantly going in and out of the graveyard because, rising from the dead, dying, and so on. But having Tearlament use the graveyard, they're like, oh no, it's the ocean. We're jumping in and out of the ocean. And now Fiendsmith is using the graveyard to hop in and out. It's like, okay, we're just losing all sense of what like the graveyard is supposed to be thematically anymore. Whatever. We're going second. We don't have any hand traps. I will say, sort of as a spoiler for the deck list at the end of the video, earlier this version of the deck I had a eldlich package, which was like 2 eldlich, 3 cursed eldland, 3 conquistador, 2 huaquero. So those 10 cards, 8 of them were spells and traps. And I found that things like having the Wenju Temple requiring you to have a monster in hand made it so that I was way less likely to be able to get the Wenju Temple online, and just like certain other combos weren't able to jive as well with Eldritch. So I actually, and also a lot of the time, this is sort of a mid-range combo-y style deck instead of the control deck that I'm used to, which meant that a lot of the time I would have my turns turned off by my opponent's hand traps. So I replaced those 10 Eldritch cards with a small hand trap package, which is like one of everything plus a cross out and an extra max C because it's really good. So I feel bad about that, but I think it's really cool to be able to have zombies in general be sort of a new style of deck that's taking advantage of their new support. Medora, we're just going to force out some of their interruptions right away. First, we shuffle back their Shuffler, we shuffle back their Snow. They decide not to activate those effects. Maybe they're afraid that I'm trying to get them to activate an effect because I have Triple Tactics Thrust or Talon or something. Whatever. We got rid of their graveyard effects. Now they can't target my Dark Monster thanks to Mud Dragon. I was pretty sure this is the trap that negates monsters, or at least a trap that flips it over. And I don't want them to do anything for now. Ash Blossom, that sucks. They actually reduced my life points because of the Fiendsmith cards. Just another reason why Ghost Fusion is great. Like, I have 10 cards that can reduce my life points, and I have one of them in hand, the Wenju Temple, but my opponent my opponent lowers my life points just for free. So Ghost Fusion is online a ton. Chang-Chi just gets the Zombieworld online in case they try to fuse. Kashtira, Chaos Angel, I was sure they had something, just time to get rid of it. In this case, I made a huge mistake. I don't know why I put the King's Sarcophagus on the field, but luckily they make a mistake too and they don't shuffle the King's Sarcophagus back. Instead, they get rid of Chaos Angel. I make the Zombieworld so they can't fusion most cards anymore. They make a Prediprantic Stapelia, but whatever. Now both of my Horus monsters are online. They've used their negate. Kaleido Heart's already come back, so we can use an effect to send him to grave. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Zombie Vampire. So I make this a ton in order to extend plays, and it's sort of like a trade-off. Like, do you make this to have a chance at extending your plays, or do you make Dingirsu or Hope Harbinger to try to get rid of a card or set up a spell negate? In this case, totally worth it to go gambling, because we get Gozuki, who sends the Doom King, and now Zombieworld is shutting off their fusions, and Doom King's going to be a double negate, and they can't get over everything before I kill them next turn. Goodbye. That was talking pretty quickly, but yeah, this sort of mid-rangey combo off, negate your opponent's hand traps every once in a while to allow your own plays to happen was really fun and a totally sort of different experience from the really heavy trap decks that I'm used to. Effect Veiler get negated. So you can just imagine anytime I use a hand trap, imagine that had been either an eldlich in hand or one of the eldlich spells or traps. And you can see why I switched over to that. Like obviously the eldlich engine is super strong, and there's another version of this deck that you can make where it's eldlich plus the Doom King Zombieworld package, but it focuses way less on the zombie pile. Like I don't think that eldlich works amazing in combination with having like Gozuki and Ghost Fusion and stuff. It's just they work like the Eldritch spells and traps all work on your opponent's turn, and if you build your whole deck to all work on your opponent's turn, then it's really powerful. But if they don't, then you know. So our opponent, despite an effect failure, has a max C. They have an Omni Negate, and they have a banish a card. They banished our effect failure, but we don't care. They activated a monster effect during the draw phase, so we'll have to do something. Battle, get rid of SP Little Knight, activate an effect. He doesn't negate that. Oh my god. They also have this Deception of Sinful Spoils, which has this other effect that I like have never seen before. I mean, obviously I saw it because this is a replay, but it also makes their life points go up and decreases our life points. Thanks, now Ghost Fusion is online. Trying to get them to use their negate. They do. Goodbye. Triple Tactics talents get a draw 2. I probably could have looked at my opponent's hand to see what was in there, but instead I'm just going to kind of do that. Necrowold Banshee's effect is once per turn, but now during their draw phase, without going into their max C at all, we got rid of both of their negates. Zombieworld's online. Doom King's back. Goodbye. All of your Fiendsmith cards are turned off. Okay, so they do have the Millenium package, which is going to allow them to just run over the Doom King. That's kind of a downside of the Doom King. It's like he's easy to run over. But at the same time, if they have to run him over, that means they don't kill you. And if they don't kill you, that means that it gets to be your turn. And if it gets to be your turn, we have a lot of gas and ability to play through our opponent. All right, they're trying to pop off, but again, they can't make the Link 2 into the to go into the Fiendsmith cards. All right, they're going into a Whiteforest package. They add another spell. I was expecting them to add the spell that says if you control a spellcaster, then you can like special summon, but they know how to read, so they know that all of their cards are zombies. Pitch another card. Yeah, they're trying to do something. Okay, finally, Baron de Fleur. All that for a drop of blood, huh? Just to be able to pop the zombie world. It's a zombie world in a zombie girl. Okay. Upstart Goblin, sure, why not? Get a draw. Yeah, their life points are lower than ours, so Zombie Fusion's not online. Taking out SP again. Okay, negate. Thrust, grass. Okay. Is there anything in here that's going to be good for us? Fairy Tale Snow gets a banish. Okay. I didn't see a Chengshi in the grave, unfortunately. Okay, they banished our snow, so we can't use that again. But it was really important to flip this down, because their only interruption besides Barone and SP just now is they have the trap that lets them synchro on my turn and basically Karma Cannon everything. So now it's harder for them to do that because they can't synchro with the level 4 on the field. Yeah, Ghost Fusion is not going to work. We can't get our life points low enough. In this case, though, we just do this. They had been waiting for us to have a bunch of monsters on the field for them to special summon the level 4 engrave and then activate the trap card to Karma Cannon everything. But when I activated Grass, I sent a Shuffler to the grave. The Shuffler shuffles back the monster. That means they don't get to Karma Cannon me. That means they get to run over all their monsters, make a Dingirsu to send a card to grave, make an SP Little Knight to banish another card. Yeah, we can beat up our opponents pretty easily. Yeah, this meta was super interesting. It was like, obviously you have a bunch of the Fiendsmith piles where people are just like, I'm going to put Fiendsmith in literally every single deck, which, you know, we have an answer to with the Zombieworld engine. They used Snake Eyes Ash to bait out the Ash Blossom, and they just go into full combo. Probably I could have waited for them to use Poplar in order to negate the search for the field spell, but I mean, I don't know. You're kind of gambling whether they have a bonfire or not. Full Fiendsmith combo. Yeah, this is going to be a case where we have to break their board, unfortunately. Let's see, there was something I wanted to say. So we have our engine, which is pretty cool. A lot of the decks that we end up seeing are obviously the Fiendsmith packages, and then obviously the anti-meta stuff, which unfortunately does hurt us, like getting Macrocosmos, those Exodia decks. It's hard for us to deal with things when they also, are banishing our graveyard. But we have outs to deal with them. We can super poly a card or two. We can try to make an SP Little Knight or Dingirsu to banish their cards. The Millenium engine is really nice for baiting out their interruptions. Okay, what are they doing? They're still doing stuff, just the normal Snake Eyes Ash combo. Like, it's a really interesting combo, but when you've seen it 30 some times, it, really starts to get old. Let's see. Oh yeah, there were a couple people who recommended using the Fiendsmith engine in this deck that I'm using, basically as an alternative to Ghost Fusion. And to that I say, maybe it's better when the main deck Lacrima card comes out, which allows you to one card, truly like one or two card combo into full Fiendsmith and make a Beatrice and blah blah blah. But for now, you need to have three monsters, and I'd rather use those three monsters to do a bunch of other really cool combos. And the Fiendsmith cards are obviously really hard counteracted by the Zombieworld stuff. So instead of doing that and just throwing Fiendsmith into everything and like wasting a bunch of my extra deck slots on having a bunch of the Fiendsmith cards, like my extra deck's already super tight, I'd rather just go full 100% zombies. Super Poly doesn't really get rid of a negate, but we have a monster at least. Trying to bait out their Appaloosa. Finally, we bait out the Appaloosa. Okay. Get a draw two. Trying to bait out the other Omni Negate, but oh, they messed up, I think, because they ran out of time or something, and they never actually put the level 2 here, so we can just do whatever we want. Get a grass, thanks very much. Add a Ghost Fusion. We can't special summon anymore, obviously, but we'll do that. Zombieworld, we have the Doom King engrave. We have a Shuffler. Yeah, they're in big trouble. Yeah, so that was a case where they definitely messed up the combo, but I mean, you'll take it, right? It's sort of like we go first a bunch because, like, whatever, like 60-ish% of the time because of Tenpai. And against Tenpai, obviously, they might have a hand trap, in which case, like, you have to hope that you have, like, a way to negate it. But if they don't, if they're just going full board breaker, we just use Beatrice to send rollback plus the trap, make it so they can't special summon at all, and then they're good. In this case, we opened with the Wenju Temple. We lowered our life points. We make both of the level 8s. We had Ghost Fusion from grave to hand by sending the Ghost Sleeper using the Wenju Temple. Rollback. We get a level 8. Thank you very much. Was there a Horus monster that I could have added to hand? Nope. Okay. In that case, if you don't have something special you want to add from grave to hand, you can just make Garura to get a draw 1. Yeah, what's really funny is the reason that I'm making this deck is because we have the Duke of Demise, which makes Ghost Fusion a lot more easy to use. But I actually find that I'm able to make Garura using just a dark monster a ton of the time, like way more often than I make Duke of Demise. So this deck might have been possible like a few months ago even. All right, we get the Horus package. We just add Hope Harbinger, get a spell negate. It's also nice to stop them from running our opponent's monsters over. All right, branded. Oh yeah, they're going to get hard countered. So yeah, I think I knew that they had branded because we had milled with the zombie vampire. So I'm going to wait for them to commit like a branded fusion or something in order to roll back onto Ghost Meets Girl to make it so that neither player can special summon from the hand, a deck, or extra deck. For some reason, did I not summon out the Doom King? Yeah, I think my toggle was off, so I didn't send the Doom King this turn, but that's okay. I'll just send like a Shuffler or something. Yeah, they were about to special summon from hand. I'm like, no, get turned off. Goodbye. They add, that's interesting. This is like a, yeah, they were trying to hit the vampire sucker, but we use Hope Harbinger to make it so they actually have to hit us instead. Finally, send the Doom King, so it's going to come on our turn. We had a Super Poly in hand, so when we get a draw one next turn, we're going to be able to pop off. Absolutely crushing them. Okay, this one's against, oh yeah, a Runick player. We'll see if this is the one that I remember it as being, and it was like pretty annoying to have to slowly kind of grind your way through their pieces, but let's see how it goes. Okay, a couple Ash Blossoms, a Molcharmy. Yeah, Molcharmy out. Oh no. Yeah. This happens sometimes, unfortunately. Like the upside of having like the eldlich sort of really trap heavy decks that I like is you never have a hand like this. Like every turn you always have 2 or 3 interruptions. The downside is you only have 2 or 3 interruptions, which might not be enough. Double Ash Blossom's actually going to be huge to make it so they can't get a draw 3. Although they get a draw 2. Okay. Oh my god, and a Talons. Somehow they don't have like any of their super have nearly as many of the important trap cards as you might be worried that they'd have. They banished a Doom King and a Necrold Banshee. No draw 2 for you. Okay, they can activate trap spell cards from their hand. Yep, Runick Destruction, get the banish. Destroy our spell card. Whatever. We're at least baiting stuff out. Alright, we get a double summon. Zombieworld, get a Ghost Fusion. Sure, why not? Lower our life points, make a Baronne de Fleur. Ooh. Yeah, so right there I had a chance to make a Baronne de Fleur, but like the Huggin is protecting all their cards from being destroyed anyways, and if I hit it by battle, they'll just use a spell card to summon another one. So I thought it would be better off to go into Beatrice and stuff. Like the fact they haven't activated a skill drain or a rivalry or something means that I don't think I need to worry about this spell card, this trap card, but whatever. I can still make a Dingirsu and a SP Little Knight to banish some cards. Changshi, Beatrice. All right, what's she gonna send? We get a draw 1. We're gonna try to shut their oh no, I see. So I sent the other reason I really like this package is it has great synergy with a full zombie deck, right? Like I love that we got this new card, Flying Mary, because it can recover our banished zombies. But I find that I hardly ever need to use it because we also have Ghost Meets Girl, which you can banish from the grave to get back one of your banished cards. And Ghost Sleeper, the card central to Ghost Fusion, has a second effect where the following turn after it's sent to the grave, you can banish it and target one of your banished zombies and add it back to your hand. So like we have multiple ways to recover banished zombies even before we had Flying Mary. Mizuki, add a special summon a card. Yep, so first we're going to do Dingirsu. Send that card to grave. It was just bait. SP Little Knight, banish the field spell. So now they're not getting draw 3s ever again, which is super important for keeping their grind game down. Okay. This is an interesting tech that I'm seeing in a lot of Runick cards where it's like they call spell cards and they have a lot of spell cards allowing them to add them to hand. Whatever. Send a Gozuki. So Gozuki is going to banish a Changshi. Basically, I saw that they grabbed a rivalry, and I need to make sure I have a zombie on the field, because if they rivalry while I don't have a zombie, it's going to be super hard. Like, I think my Necroworld Banshee and a bunch of my other cards were banished. At least one of my Ghost World, Zombie Worlds was banished, so it'd be really hard for me to get back into zombies. But then they just Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere moded me, so whoops. That's why you always have to wait for the end phase to do stuff. So right now, if they flick Rivalry right now, I'll be in huge trouble. It'll be super slow. I'll keep fairies, and I don't have a way to. Do I have a way to get both my? I have a way to add. Okay, so I could use Ghost Sleeper to add Necrold Banshee to my hand, but then I don't have a way to get Necrold Banshee from my hand to the graveyard to be able to activate my other copy of Zombieworld. And also, Yeah, so that's what I would need to do. I need to find a way to discard it, and I wouldn't have that for a couple turns. But luckily, they wait to activate Rivalry, and because I now have a zombie on the field, they're toast. I can just go completely full combo. Rivalry doesn't affect me at all anymore. I have a way to discard the Banshee by after I add it back to hand, so then I'll be able to special summon any card I want from the grave. They're toast. The next thing I'm going to do now that I've gotten to Master 1 with this deck, is I'm going to do some sort of like an eldlich trap deck using equation cannons to climb to uh, Duelist level max. I think that's what I'm going to try to do. But if you have other ideas, if you would prefer maybe like a Paleozoic deck to try to get to Duelist level max, just let me know. I'll be really interested in hearing your thoughts on what types of decks you want to see. All right, no hand traps. They're going full combo. Yeah, you'll notice that there's certain types of duels that I'm not showing. There are duels where I go first, I go full combo, Beatrice, send rollback, Beatrice, send Ghost Meets Girl, their turn is over, and they either surrender or I just go. I'm also not showing duels where, like, I activate a Millenium card and they instantly surrender because they think that I'm a Fiendsmith deck and they're like, I don't want any of this smoke, I don't have a Max C in hand. It's like, dude, I'm not. I mean, you're probably still gonna lose because my deck is really strong, but it's not Fiendsmith. So that's the two type of duels I'm not showing. I'm also not showing duels where I go second, they go full combo, and I have literally no cards in hand, like that can act as interruptions. So obviously there are certain types of duels that you're not going to see, but in this case, this isn't like an amazing going second hand, right? Obviously, Talents is solid, but they have like double Omni negates on the field. Fairy Tale Snow, that's a way to bait out a monster negate so that you can turn Talents online. King Sarcophagus and the Millenium Engine are both really good because there are ways to summon out a bunch of level 8 bodies with high attack, which means going first, you can make them into a bunch of fun XYZ monsters that get a spell negate or to summon a bunch of cards from your grave to hand. But going second, really importantly, you can just hit over a bunch of your opponent's monsters because they all have really high attack. And the Millenium Engine lets you set a spell trap into the monster zone. The Horus Engine uses King Sarcophagus to send a card, and then after that you can make like a Dengirsu and then an SP Little Nate to send a card in their back row to grave and then banish a card. So the King Sarcophagus and Millenium Engines are really good as gas going first and as board breakers going second. But this is not like an amazing going second hand. There's no super poly, which even if there was, that would just be like, I would do this targeting like the Silva, and then they either negate it with and then they negate it with Appaloosa, and then yeah. Anyways, this is not easy. So the Talents is online. We try to take over control of an opponent's monster. One Omni negate's gone. Here, I think they should have. So actually, Fiendsmith and Desiree, yeah, target face-up cards on the field and negate their effects. So yeah, Desiree actually does nothing to stop King Sarcophagus, assuming we're able to get a Horus monster in the graveyard. Yeah, in this case, they don't negate King Sarcophagus, which was a huge mistake because now I get to make 2 level 8 bodies instead of just 1. They have Kashtira Birth, so maybe they thought they were going to banish all 3 cards from the graveyard, but they need to have a Kashtira monster for that to work. So they made a mistake. We summon our Horus monsters, battle phase. They negate King Sarcophagus, so we're not going to be able to send Appaloosa to grave, but we could still just pop Appaloosa. Well, we wanted to, but they used Desiree's effect to target a grave card to send it to the grave. Imseti doesn't get to send a card, whatever. We still get to go into Ghost Fusion, though. Garura, Chang-Chi, they have the monster negate, but what I really cared about was having a light level 4 monster, Fairy Tale Snow, and a dark level 6 monster. So now we make Chaos Angel. We're going to banish a card, and I chain block Garura's draw by using Chaos Angel to banish just like the Kashtira Birth, like to make it so they have less gas. They use an imperm to negate Chaos Angel, but that's actually a huge mistake because it only is negated on my turn, and when it goes back to my opponent's turn, guess what? He's still considered summoned with light monsters and dark monsters, which means you can't make an access code to swing over it. You can't make an SP Little Knight to banish it. Like, the only outs that I think Fiendsmith has to a Chaos Angel is literally Underworld Goddess. So like if they aren't running Underworld Goddess in their extra deck, which they're probably not because they're running the Azima version of Fiendsmith, which requires them to use a whole bunch of their extra deck for all the Azima monsters as well. Yeah, they just don't have room for it. So now they can't make a monster with high enough attack to swing over it so that they can hurt my life points. They try to banish the Chaos Angel, but it doesn't work. Yeah, so now it's going to be my turn. I'm going to use King's Sarcophagus to just summon out my Horus monsters. They probably should have used SP Little Knight to banish the King's Sarcophagus, but yeah, Chaos Angel and his absolute Giga Chad. He's probably one of the monsters I summoned the least, other than maybe Flying Mary, just because usually if you can make him, you instead are going to make like a Baronne de Fleur or something. But it's just as like a lot of decks have a lot of trouble making him, and it's awesome to get that banish. Okay, another going second game. Yeah, you're also not seeing the games where I'm going second and I open with like a max C or like a couple of hand traps and just like stop it from them having any sort of a turn at all. But I really like the board breaker gameplay, so it's gonna be fun. What are they doing here? Okay, so this is one of those boards where they require you to do stuff. Yeah, so it's like if we summon a monster, they're gonna use Promethean Princess to pop their own card, summon herself out, and start doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff. But Upstart Goblin into Super Poly, uh, they don't have a monster negate anymore. They don't have a fire monster on the field to be able to do stuff. They probably have like an imperm or a called by. No called by apparently. I make Mud Dragon a dark monster so they can't target Unizombie. Yeah, Mud Dragon's effect to protect from targeting actually comes up a surprising amount going second. Like, didn't think it would, but it's pretty great. Last two duels. Yeah, I went on like a 7 game win streak from Master 3 to Master 2. I had like a 5 game win streak multiple times. My overall win percentage is probably like something like 70-ish%. Okay, so in this case, I wish this deck didn't lose against Droll and Lockbird as easily it does, because it's a card that people use a lot. But I usually find that I want to make 2 searches, so I end up making a change to my deck at some point where I added an extra copy of Droll and Lockbird. Okay, talents, look at their hand. They have, obviously they have Tract and LZ, which are both ways to get into their engine, but Ash Blossom is their only card they can do on my turn. So I'm just going to be like, I'll get rid of Ash Blossom and see how far I can pop off. Grass, thank you. I saw a rollback. I saw a couple of Horus monsters. All right, let's make the zombie vampire. Sending a bunch of cards with grass wasn't enough. I need more. All right. In that case, we didn't have to use Happy's effect to special summon. We used the zombie vampire, and that was just as like fodder to be able to normal summon Changshi. All right, we send a Mizuki, we make everything zombies, and now we have a Beatrice. So we're going to make it so they can't special summon at all during their turn. Rollback, Happy, Mizuki, special summon another level 8 monster, get the spell negate. Okay. And now it's going to be our opponent's turn. What are they going to do? Doom King special summons out. Yeah. We already had a rollback in Grave, which meant that Beatrice was free to send like a Fairy Tale Snow or a Shuffler. These sort of like really deep graveyard decks where we have a bunch of interruptions that we get online in the graveyard immediately are pretty fun. They definitely make for interactive gameplay. So this was my final rank up duel. Uh, yep, they have a Mulcharmy. I'm pretty sure that they have like a max C or something too. So I'm negating this, fully expecting them to just follow up with a max C, making my life a lot harder, but they don't. They chose to go second, so already I'm like 99.9% sure that they're a Tenpai player. All right, we're leveling up. Ghost Fusion, do your thing. Uh, we'll just get a couple of cards in the graveyard first. Use Necrolled Banshee to make a bunch of other cards zombies too. Okay. So they did have a Bestial, which kind of sucks, but not really. Like, it doesn't really affect anything. Luckily, it's more of just I was lucky that they didn't banish my Imseti. Okay, full combo. We can banish a useless falafels or whatever it's called. Beatrice, get a draw one. Get a triple tactics talent. So in this case, I just want to look at my opponent's hand, and I see that they have a Kashtira Unicorn. When you can't special summon from your hand, deck, or extra deck, Unicorn's going to be useless. Chandra is going to be useless. Droplet actually would have been a huge problem if I didn't thrust talents into getting rid of their droplet. That meant I would have not been able to send the other half of the trap setup. Instead, we get our spell negate and monster protection. They're going to pop off a bit here. No, they don't. Okay. They wait. Our opponent's turn. And I have to do this immediately. I don't want them to try to make a Baronne de Fleur or anything. Battle phase. No, you're actually attacking me. So, yeah, because I activated a zombie effect, then I was also going to banish their other monster, and they were toast. Yeah, so I thought that this was a really fun climb. It's a different deck than the kind that I'm used to, but I feel kind of proud of the fact that I was able to make a deck that the whole focus of it was, can Ghost Fusion be like this cool card that is actually enabling a zombie deck's plays and is like an optimal version of the way to play it. And I think it is. Like, I've tried this version of the deck where you get rid of a number of cards and you run the Fiendsmith cards instead, because the idea is like any three monsters can go into this long line using the Fiendsmith monsters to be able to make a Beatrice, and you can just hard make the Duke of Demise by using the Link 2 to fusion summon from the graveyard. But I think it was a really fun challenge to just go full zombies, ignore Fiendsmith, because Fiendsmith does have a cost, right? Like, there are a bunch of cards that I wouldn't be able to run in my extra deck. Flying Mary, recovering banished cards from Called by the Graves and Bestials and Runick, oh my. A whole bunch of cards in the extra deck you aren't able to use if you're also using the Fiendsmith engine, and the Fiendsmith engine also conflicts with the Zombieworld package, which is kind of a huge part of what makes this deck strong at this point in time, because the Zombieworld package specifically turns off the Fiendsmith cards, the Tearlements cards, a bunch of cards that are really popular right now. So by embracing a deck that doesn't have those anti-synergies, that's not kind of the boring, just throw Fiendsmith into everything, you're able to make a really cool deck that has a lot of these impactful plays. So let's do a quick description. It's pretty similar to the version I showed like a week or two ago. The only difference is instead of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I guess those like 13 cards that are like the anti-hand trap or just the hand trap package of Called by the Graves, Maxis, Ash Blossoms, Effect Failures, and so on. I was running the 10 eldlich cards, plus I was already running a pair of Called by the Graves, and I replaced Golden Sarcophagus as a way to like banish a zombie monster with Droll and Lockbird. I just found there were a bunch of times where I would have Golden Sarcophagus, and either I don't have a zombie in the grave that I can use to make sure that I banish Changshi and special summon herself out by being able to banish a zombie monster in grave because I don't have one yet, or like I would already be able to make Changshi by having super easy access to Ghost Fusion or whatever, and now there's no other card that the Golden Sarcophagus can banish, so I just replaced it with another target for Crossout Designator. This is kind of the central conceit of the hand trap package, is basically we have one of every major hand trap that exists, Nibiru, Maxi, and so on, hand traps that we don't really care about. And then you also throw in a crossout designator so you can protect yourself from hand traps and also have a couple to go into your opponent. There's probably a version of this deck that goes heavier on hand traps, like instead of having 10 hand traps plus like 9 hand traps plus like 4 cards to counteract them or negate them, you would have like 15 or 20 or something. But I had enough duels where it was like I open my hand and it's like 2 or 3 hand traps and then like no ability to go into my engine, that I was like, no way. Keep the hand traps to a minimum. Going into the actual deck itself, our normal summons, we have 3 copies of Unizombie and 2 copies of Gozuki. I had some people suggest a card called the Zombie Goblin. I'm actually going to go into the version of my deck where I can like look at stuff here real quick. Okay. So there's a card, Zombie Goblin. Yeah, well, a number of people were suggesting this, where it's basically you summon it, and then if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add a zombie with low defense from your deck to your hand, which in theory allows you to add like a Unizombie or a Gozuki. And the idea was then you make a Duke of Demise. Duke of Demise, using like Ghost Fusion or something. Duke of Demise gives you an extra normal summon and you can pop off. Or you could make a card, what's it called? Ancient Fairy. Yeah, you could make this card Ancient Fairy Dragon, which is basically like a Unizombie plus like another level 4 card like Gozuki. And then you can destroy a field spell card, ideally the Wenju Temple, in order to set a Zombieworld. And it also has this effect that lets you special summon another level 4 monster to act like an extra normal summon. So like these were interesting sort of extender cards, but they kind of require you to have other cards. Like this requires you to first have a level 3 and then a level 4 on the field in order to make it. Or the Goblin Zombie requires you to normal summon and then do stuff to make it so you can normal summon again. The idea is, like, the idea behind those cards was to increase consistency, but it's like, I don't need to increase consistency. I was already running 2 Unizombie and 2 Gozuki, so why add another copy of Zombie Goblin when I can just add another copy of Unizombie that you just normal summon right away? So basically, there were a bunch of other versions of this deck that people suggested, and then I tried out in the Duelist Cup, and I was like, I want to make this deck as simple as possible. I want to know like every single card in this deck, what's its purpose. Unizombie sends a card to grave. A lot of times you'll send Ghost Sleeper, which enables your Ghost Fusion plays. It's super easy to get Ghost Sleeper in the grave by either using a Unizombie or you normal summon a Gozuki, which has this same effect. You can go into either of your engines that let you summon out a bunch of monsters, Imseti or the Millenium cards. So the Millenium cards and the Horus cards both let you make level 8s to get mills. Grass obviously lets you do a mill, which allows you to send Ghost Sleeper, which allows you to add Ghost Fusion, which allows you to pop off. So we have this set of normal summons, the Unizombie, the Gozuki. We don't have any other normal summons, but we have a couple of packages. The Ghost Sleeper, the Ghost Fusion package, obviously Ghost Sleeper, Ghost Fusion. You've seen these combos a couple times to make Chang Shi, which sends cards to grave. The cards you want to send to grave, obviously, you have the Doom King, which pairs really well with Zombieworld, and you also have Necroll Banshee, which you banish from the grave in order to activate Zombieworld. Tons of times I'll have my opponent like get rid of Zombieworld after I've used Necroll Banshee, and then on the following turn I'll use one of my many ways of recovering a zombie from the banished zone, including Ghost Meets Girl, including the secondary effect of Ghost Sleeper, or just well, Flying Mary wouldn't be able to recover it, but other ways to recover Necroll Banshee, who banishes herself and sets the other copy of Zombie World. Having 2 copies is super important. I don't think 1 copy is enough. You don't want to rely on needing to use a shuffler to get it back in the grave. But 3 copies of Zombie World is probably too much. You want to be able to actually pop off and do your plays. We also have this card Al Ghul Mazira, which is really nice because you can banish it and it has an effect that lets it special summon itself back from the graveyard, and it's another level 8 body. So it protects your field. It's a level 8 body that's super easy to special summon. A lot of times you use it as Chang-Chi's cost if you can, or you can use Fairy Tale Snow to banish your Chang-Chi to get all your plays rolling, or you can even just use the Doom King's ability to banish a card, like in response to a zombie card effect, to get your plays rolling. So the Chang-Chi Ghost World package is super good at getting all of your important zombie cards milled. You mill your important cards like the Doom King, which just keeps coming back every turn. It's a double negate. And then you have more level 8 monsters that you can make. Other important cards that you want to send to graveyard, obviously, there's the Shufflers, Mudora, and Keldo. They're really good interruptions against your opponent because this is a meta where there's a lot of graveyard effects. But also, they're good for just recycling your own cards. Like maybe you accidentally sent both copies of Zombie World. Now, you can shuffle one of your copies of Zombie World back, recover your Necroll Banshee however you want to, and then you just activate Zombie World again. So the shufflers are super powerful. What else? Yeah, Fairy Tale Snow is great. You can just use it as a normal summon interruption, especially once you get grass going. The Millenium package, I upped Senjin to 3. Before I had been running 2 copies of Senjin, 2 copies of Golem, and the Field Spell. If you're on a budget, you could obviously do 3 copies of the Golem and just 2 of Senjin. It gets you the same thing. Like if you have a Senjin or if you have a Golem, it still ends in you having 1 level 6 body, and then a level 8 body, and then a second level 8 body, which means that you can normal summon a Unizombie, activate its effect to get a mill, and get a Baronne de Fleur for free. Or you can do what I showed in one of those duels where you like special summon your Unizombie out from the graveyard using your Mezuki, for example, or something else to be able to make all the bodies necessary for a Baronne de Fleur. I ended up cutting all of the zombie cards that were like the little level 2 tuners that special summon themselves out from the grave, because this version of the deck doesn't run all of those synchro zombies like Red Eyes Zombie. Like we're not running like the Red Eyes Zombie Dragon or anything like that, where you like synchro out a level 6 and then you synchro out a level 8 and then you synchro out a level 10. Like we're using every card in the extra deck as much as possible. And you can make Baronne de Fleur really easily. You can make Chaos Angel pretty frequently, just a Fairy Tale Snow and any level 6 Dark Monster. So these synchros do come up plenty of the time. I wouldn't cut them. But you don't need to focus on having all these other cards, which like if you draw them and you're going second, they don't like force your opponent to negate them. Otherwise you'll start popping off, right? They don't need to negate normal summoning one of those level 2 tuners. Whereas they do need to negate Gozuki, for example. All right, let's see. So yeah, the Millenium engine, super powerful. The Horus engine, I don't think you need to have the fourth Horus monster. Like in theory, it like increases your ceiling, but it also increases your floor, right? Like that's just another brick that you never want to draw. And I also don't think you should cut the third Horus monster either. I think being able to get three XYZ monsters is plenty to be able to push into an opponent's board, to be able to make the zombie vampire who special summons something out, and then also make the vampire sucker, and then have that third XYZ monster special summon itself out to get a draw. So I think that three is a solid amount. It does sometimes feel like you're getting a little bricky, like having two cards that do nothing in hand is a lot worse than just one. But I think that the extra bodies and extra push you get on your opponent is worth that concession. So let's see, that's the Horus package, that's the Millennium package, that's the hand traps, that's the normal summons, that's the zombie package, like Zombieworld and so on package, and that's the Ghost Fusion package. And that's also the Millers. Okay, what else are we missing? Upstart Goblin, I think it's awesome in this deck, which requires you to have your opponents be lower than your life points be lower than your opponent's life points. So it's just a great consistency card. I saw someone else ask if they like have copies of Chicken Game, like if they could just use Chicken Game instead of Upstart Goblin. Yeah, I think obviously Chicken Game also works, but like it does conflict with Zombieworld because you want Zombieworld to be up for like multiple turns to like turn your opponent's grave off and make all of your cards zombies so you can like use a Mizuki to revive a Baronne de Fleur in the graveyard and stuff like that. So it's like I think it's not as good as Upstart Goblin, and also because it's costing yourself life points. Like between Chicken Game and then also having your Millennium cards costing you 2,000 to 4,000 life points, and then rollback costing you a couple thousand life points. Like there have been some duels where I forget to summon my monsters in defense mode, and then even though they can't special summon from the hand deck extra deck, they just like are able to normal summon or special out from grave or banishment enough monsters with high enough attack to just like run over an attack position vampire sucker or something. So Chicken Game costing you life points has all those extra downsides. While I'm on the subject, the Wenju Temple, I thought when I would first put the Millennium package in would also be a problem because it's like this is a field spell, Zombieworld is a field spell, like you don't really like having them conflict with each other. But it actually never was an issue because you only ever are gonna like you almost always go into your Millennium engine before you do anything because it forces your opponent to start making negates. Otherwise, you get a bunch of like high attack bodies, or you'll start milling out things with the zombie vampire and stuff. So the Millennium engine forces your opponent to stop you, and only once the Millennium engine has either been stopped or gone to completion to like have all of the bodies that you want on the field, then you're going to activate Zombieworld, and you're never going to go into the Wenju Temple again. Like you're never going to shuffle it back to like go into all those cards a second time, right? So having one other field spell is fine, but any more than that can create a conflict. And it's also kind of goes in the opposite direction where people were suggesting Ancient Fairy Dragon. It's like I don't have enough field spells where it's really worth it either. You know what I mean? Anyways, so Upstart Goblin is great. Foolish Burial is great. Like all of our most important zombie monsters, like all of our normal summons and the main card that we always make with Ghost Fusion, their whole point is to send a monster from the deck to the graveyard. So why not also just have a spell that does that too? No reason. It's amazing. Ghost Fusion, we talked about that. Sort of like the whole purpose of this deck is like, how can I make Ghost Fusion work? Well, first we need a bunch of cards that lower our life points, our opponent compared to our opponents. We need to be able to make a zombie monster super easily. For example, with a level 8, using any of our level 8 engines. And then we can make a Beatrice that skips our opponent's turn or sets up a Zombieworld floodgate really easily. Ghost Fusion is great. Grass, all of our cards are designed to be able to go to the grave and have effects. Why not just have a card that does that even more? Again, there are ways to build this deck where you have even more cards that have graveyard effects, but that trades off with having them be in your hand and not be as good. So I like this version of the deck where it's like there are a few cards that also have graveyard effects. It would really suck to have like your shufflers plus snow plus your Outgloom Zero all in hand at once. So adding more cards that are like those is bad, but they have such high impact once you get them in the graveyard, and you have triple tactics thrust to be able to get there really easily, so I think it's worth it. Talents, I was running this at 1, but I think running it at 2 makes a ton of sense. Like, your opponent just always has hand traps, and being able to look at your opponent's hand and get rid of, for example, their droplet, which is like the only way they're going to stop you from turning their turn off, or getting rid of their one starter so that they only have a bunch of hand traps in hand, or getting rid of their Ash Blossom so you're safe to activate grass, is super powerful. Having it at 3 is just a little bit too much, even in a 60 card deck. But especially because you can just thrust to search it out if you need to, and then going second, it's a great board breaker for dealing with opponents that have a bunch of negates. Yeah, great card. Thrust, you can go into grass. I've never used, the only cards I've ever used Thrust to go into have been Talents, like if I need to get a draw 2 or to steal an opponent's card, or Grass to be able to send a bunch of my opponent's cards to the graveyard. And honestly, that's plenty. Even going first, you can use it to just set an imperm, which is here almost more as a crossout designator target, because it does really suck when they negate your Uni-Zombie or your Gozuki or whatever. But because we have an imperm, you can just thrust into an imperm, and then you've got a negate for your opponent's turn, assuming you also like were able to do at least something. We talked about Zombieworld, we talked about the Millenium engine, we talked about the Horus engine, we talked about the anti-hand trap engine. Super Poly, we're already running Garura and Duke of Demise as a result of the Ghost Fusion package. So there's zero reason not to also at least run a Mud Dragon in order to be able to get more of my opponent's cards in the graveyard. Like, a lot of decks will set up something that you can at least Mud Dragon away one of their negates and maybe like a second card that wasn't a negate, but it was at least like going to be an extra body or something. It's possible that when we get to the extra deck, there's a card you want to cut in order to add, let's see, like there's some Azima cards, like an Illusion Monster plus like a high level Fiend, or maybe this card, 2 level, 1 Fusion and 1 Synchro. Yeah, I mean, probably this card, right, if you wanted to use, actually no, you'd want to use this card. It's a level 6, you can use it with Beatrice, target a card, send it to the grave. Yeah, actually. Yeah, I think if you wanted to add an extra Super Poly target, this would be it, because this gets rid of the main sort of Fiendsmith board your opponent always makes, where it's the Fiendsmith card with the double Omni Negate plus the, which one is it? Plus this guy, which allows them to do an Omni Negate by sending itself to grave. So yeah, if you wanted to add an extra Super Poly target, I think that, yeah, actually, as I'm looking at this, I actually really want to add this to this deck, but I already got to Master 1, so whatever. We'll think about which card would be best to cut for it. But yeah, Super Poly is great. It comes up a ton. It's one of your best board breakers. Finally, we have Ghost Meets Girl and Rollback. This is another pair of cards that I thought, man, maybe I should just cut it. It really sucks when you draw into one of these because, like, you don't really need them because Beatrice can send both to grave, or Grass can send both to grave or something. So you don't really need them. And yeah, it's nice to turn your opponent's turn off, but sometimes it can special summon from the graveyard or banished zone. And we're already, if you're able to send both Rollback and Beatrice to grave, you're probably also already able to do something like make Duke of Demise, send an Imseti, add an Imseti to hand. Imseti gets your Horus engine online, and just like, if you're able to do this, you're probably able to do anything else that would also win. So I thought about cutting them, But I've had way too many games specifically against like Tenpai where it's just like game ending and it's there even no matter how many other cards I might be able to set up, how many other XYZ monsters I'm able to make instead with my Horus cards or whatever, like the going second decks just can break no matter your board, no matter how strong it is. So why not instead just go the safe route and totally end your opponent's turn? And then during the end phase, if they banished like your Doom King with a Called by the Grave or like a Bestial, or if you want to get your Necroll Banshee in the grave to set your other copy of Zombieworld because they destroyed it that turn, like it's not only ends your opponent's turn, but it also gives you like follow up for your turn. So I think it's an amazing package that specifically synchronizes with what we're trying to do. So even though like I don't know, people might think it's toxic or like it's unnecessary, I think it synchronizes well with this deck, and I'm going to keep it in. So we've already talked about the super poly targets and the ghost fusion targets. This card actually comes up as a super poly target a decent amount. Like mostly you make it using a pair of your Millenium cards so that it's your second level 8. So your Millenium cards can do 2 level 8s and do one of your level 8 monsters. But you can also super poly one of their Snake Eyes cards plus the illusion monster Omni Negate. So it comes up. Baron de Fleur, the only tuner in this deck is Unizombie, but between just having 3 copies of him and having a bunch of ways to special summon our zombies from the graveyard, actually I think maybe mostly just Mizuki, but also the zombie vampire is able to mill him and special summon him that way. Like we have Unizombie enough, and I was able to make Baron enough that I wasn't like, oh yeah, this is a once in a blue moon card, I shouldn't make it. Like I think Baron de Fleur totally works. Chaos Angel is another card that probably doesn't come up as much, and it's probably one of the cards that might be on the chopping block if you want to replace it with this Azamina card, which honestly seems amazing for a going second card. Like you fusion away their 2 Omni Negates, and then you can target any card on the field, like if they have a problematic back row or something, send it to graveyard. Yeah, I really want to add this in my deck somehow. So yeah, Chaos Angel's probably on the chopping block, but it's really good when you can make it. It's like an automatic turn end game winner. Like if they don't have exactly the right card to deal with it, and it's just more back row removal or just like field removal in general, which this deck enjoys. Beatrice, again, central premise of the whole deck, Ghost Fusion and so on, doesn't need to say anymore. It's probably going to get banned in a couple months. Hope Harbinger, this is kind of the go-to going first XYZ card I would make if I have enough bodies where I've already made the zombie vampire and done other things. It protects your monsters from getting attacked, so you can just detach a material, which it's usually going to have 2 or 3 materials, and it'll protect your opponent's cards from your opponent from destroying your cards by battle. But the main thing is that it's a spell negate, which there's a bunch of really important spell cards you want to interrupt. The Tenpai field spell and the Tenpai quick play spell, for example. All the Azima fusion cards. Yeah, there's a bunch of branded fusion. There's a bunch of important spell cards you want to negate. Yeah, Harpy's Feather Duster, Raigeki. You could also make what's it named? Yeah, Photon Lord as sort of a monster negate, but I sort of felt if my game, like there are a bunch of spell cards where if you negate that, like their turn is like completely done. But this is just 1 monster negate per turn, and that's just not nearly enough for the amount of value I'd be getting off of him. So I didn't think it was worth it to make this guy, but there's obviously a bunch of cool level 8 monsters you could consider. There's also where is he? This guy, this level 8 card, it's another interesting going second card where when it's summoned, destroy all monsters on the field, detach and destroy a spell or trap card. If it's destroyed, then you can special summon himself out again. So that's a really cool going second card, but again, the extra deck feels pretty tight. And usually going second, you'd have a Dingirsu, which can send any card on the field to grave, and then you can summon out another monster to make an SP Little Knight. And I found that a send and a banish was plenty. Like if you need to, you can also go into a Typhon to get a bounce. So yeah, I don't think Grunix is necessary, but if there's a way to clear up this extra deck to have more space for it, then that's probably another card to consider putting in. Zombie Vampire is super important. It's like absolutely crucial. I make it all the time. It's important for your Ghost Fusion because you need to have a zombie on the field. And this is a way where if all you have is your Horus engine or your Millenium engine, you can still make a zombie monster. You get a mill, which can usually bait out an Imperm or an Ash Blossom, or straight up like grab you an extra normal summon, or you saw in the first duel I grabbed a Fiendsmith monster from them to make a Beatrice. So it's super powerful for extending your plays and kind of making everything go, and it's just a zombie monster enabled to your Ghost Fusion plays. It's great. Vampire Sucker, this is a card that I kept thinking about cutting, but it's like it's really easy to special summon. Just get a couple cards you don't care about in the graveyard, and you're usually able to get like at least 2 draws off of it. So it's sort of like the Math Mech Link 3 monster, and in a deck that's running hand traps, 2 draws can make a big difference. So I really like it, even if you just like make this, get 1 draw, and then after that go into an SP or an IP or something like that. I think it was worth it. You'll notice in this extra deck I'm not running the Mayakashi Link 4. Basically, I replaced it with IP Masquerena. I found that there were plenty of times where I was thinking about maybe making, the Yuki Oni, but I would only have 3 monsters that I don't care about that I want to turn into something rather than 4. Or maybe I'd only have 2. And I thought IP Masquerena sort of is a better interruption because going into our opponent's turn, if I had 3 monsters, you make an IP Masquerena. She uses herself plus that 3rd monster to make an SP Little Knight. Or more often, it would just be 2 monsters. Use IP Masquerena plus a Beatrice, who's already detached the 2nd material, to like send a rollback plus a Ghost Meets Girl or something, or to send like your Doom King or whatever. Maybe they negated it, maybe they didn't. But you use IP plus Beatrice, and now you can banish any card your opponent controls, plus you can banish a 2nd monster, which getting a double banish felt more impactful than a double sort of situational monster negate. So I really like IP Masquerena. I think that she comes up a ton. SP Little Knight is obviously a necessity. You have to have it. It's amazing going first, obviously, to pair with IP, or more often to pair with to going second, just like use like a Dingirsu or something else to sort of push into an opponent's board. So super important. Flying Mary felt like it didn't come up as much as maybe I thought it would, but I think the main reason it doesn't come up is because I already have Ghost Meets Girl and Ghost Sleeper, which I can use to recycle my banished monsters anyways. So, Flying Mary didn't come up a ton, but there were a couple duels where my opponent would bestial away the Doom King that I just sent to grave, and then I make Flying Mary and grab back the Doom King that was banished anyways. So probably this is one of the cards that might be on the chopping block. Flying Mary, Chaos Angel, and then Typhon. Typhon is obviously always a last resort card, so it's kind of like if you've already gotten to a point where you need to make Typhon in order to like have a chance, you might like just lose anyways. But I'd rather have a card where like it gives me an extra chance in almost any situation over a card that like is an extra super poly target or like an extra link monster that you make in certain situations. So I think Typhon is just too much of a generically great, gives you 1 fighting chance card to get rid of. So after going through the extra deck, after talking things out, I think I'd probably either drop Flying Mary or Chaos Angel. Ooh. If you wanted to have the other um, Azamina card as a super poly target. But yeah, otherwise, I've been super happy with this deck. Let me know what kind of a deck you want me to do next, and let me know what you think of this deck. Whether you think I was a foolish person and I should have used different ratios or considered different cards. I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts on this. This was a new thing for me. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.